Our textbook also has a short little PowerPoint on annotation strategies that work. So let's look and see what they say. We want to make sure that when we are marking, when we are interacting with what the author says, that we mark new information, that we're not marking what we already know. Okay? Because if you already know it, you don't need to mark it. We know it's important to have good listening skills, but it's difficult. However, we probably don't know that most of us speak about 1,200 words per minute, and then we think about 500 words per minute. Maybe that's why our minds wander sometimes when we're listening. So don't mark the things that you know, only mark the information that is new. You want to be very careful with your highlighting. You want to use it sparingly. That's why we're only really highlighting main ideas and vocabulary, people. Because if you go highlighter crazy, or if you don't really have a plan, you end up highlighting everything. And then whenever you are reciting the information, turning it into notes, you have to go back and reread anyway because everything is yellow or orange or green. So make sure that you are using highlighting sparingly. You definitely want to focus on vocabulary whenever you are marking and annotating text. Not just the bolded or italicized vocabulary that might be defined for you in the margins, but also the vocabulary that you don't know just from reading. They're words that aren't in your prior knowledge. Okay? So if you're using a highlighter, highlight it your vocabulary color. If you are using a pen or a pencil, circle it. And then annotate those definitions right in the margins. Okay. So jurisdiction, aesthetic, apparent, and use your vocabulary strategies to help you define those unfamiliar words. Definitely different colors for different types of information, and don't switch it. So once you commit, you commit. If you are going to highlight all of the main ideas blue, then make sure you have blue highlighter for all of your readings. If vocab is going to be yellow, then make sure you have yellow highlighters because the purpose of color coding is so that that information stays in your brain. If you're a visual learner, if you're tactile kinesthetic, which means you're good with your body, then these colors are going to be imprinted in your brain. So if you use blue for one text and you can't find your blue highlighter, so you use pink, it's not going to serve its purpose. Okay? So you want to just make sure that you are keeping with a plan if you have one. The whole point of marking an annotation is talking to the text. It's interacting so that when you're reading actively and that you're understanding the information as you read it. You don't have to go back and reread huge, large sections of text because you're interacting with it and you're talking back and forth with the author. Okay? So put those questions right in the margins. Okay? If you have connections, write those connections in the margins. If you think something is ridiculous and you disagree with it, make sure you put that right as you're reading it. That way, and look, this person says, ooh, barbaric is a harsh term. That was their initial gut reaction, so they annotated it in the margin of the text. It helps develop those neural pathways. It helps you retain that information. And when you go and take notes or you bring your understanding to class, you're really going to be able to contribute. You also want to make comparisons to things that you already know or comparisons that you see directly in the text. So in this, The person Davis emphasizes Graham Leach Bliley act, but Walker rejects it. So Davis likes it, Walker rejects it. That's an easy piece of information that you can recite into notes. Now you would have to know what the GLB Act is, and you could put that down as a piece of information. But another piece of information you should have in your notes is that Davis emphasizes it while Walker rejects it. Not only should you have a color coding system, but just a system of codes in general. Put a question mark next to things that you are unsure of. Put an exclamation point next to something that's very interesting. Put a smiley face or a frowny face. Do a star. You're going to number important details right in the text. So you're going to have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, however many major supporting details the author uses, you're going to number them. So just keep with that theme. Just keep going with symbols that help you remember, help you interact with the text. If you're looking at me like I am crazy, because you're not necessarily sure you want to write in your textbook, you can absolutely invest in sticky notes, and they can be the exact same thing. You won't underline the main idea. You'll put a sticky note next to it, maybe a yellow sticky note. Cut them into small strips. Every yellow sticky note is a main idea. Every pink sticky note is vocab. And then you can just put sticky notes in the margins with your annotations. So if you don't want to write in the text, that is no excuse for not marking and annotating. You can still do it, just use sticky notes or pieces of paper. If you mark and annotate your text, you are going to remember that information so much better than if you don't. And when you read actively and you recite, you're going to be doing this marking and annotating over and over and over again in the SQ3R process. And once you have your text marked and annotated, you can turn those into whatever format of notes that works for you. An outline, a concept map, a timeline maybe, a flow chart. We're going to talk about Cornell notes. So you already know the information when you're reading it, and then you're reciting it to get it down in text in a format of notes, and then you're reviewing it. You're just reviewing the notes. Oh, this is just such a good tool. It is such a good tool, and it'll take a little bit for you to get comfortable with it. But the more you mark and annotate, the easier it becomes, and the more effective it becomes, just like any other skill. Okay. Now, the ends of lots of chapters have summaries, and depending on how the author formats the text, they might summarize in individual sections as well. But you absolutely want to summarize periodically in your own words. Because if you can summarize in your own words, you understand what the author has presented. If you can't summarize in your own words, then you might have to go back and review that some more until you really get it. And you can summarize with bullets, with numbered lists, with a little tiny paragraph. Put it on a sticky note at the end of maybe every page or every section. But you want to put those into your own words. Okay. So we're going to be practicing. I'm going to be showing you, and you're going to be doing it with me, marking and annotating. And ultimately, you are going to be submitting an article or a piece of a textbook that you marked and annotated for a note-taking grade. But the more important piece of that is that you'll get practice on a skill that will help you be successful.